Have you ever watched a candle burn down to its very last spark and wondered where the light actually goes when the flame finally extinguishes? We are taught from our earliest days to understand the universe in terms of absolute beginnings and definitive endings. A magnificent star ignites in a nebula, burns brilliantly for billions of years, and eventually collapses into the quiet dark. A delicate flower blooms in the gentle warmth of spring and withers in the cold stillness of winter. A human life begins with the first sudden breath and concludes with a final, quiet exhale. It is perhaps the most universal human experience, the one grand, profound mystery that unites every single living creature on this pale blue dot we call home. But what if our fundamental perception of an ending is simply a limitation of our biological senses? What if the boundary we fearfully call death is not a profound conclusion, but rather a magnificent, quiet transition woven deeply into the very fabric of quantum mechanics? We look at the universe through the narrow, limited lens of classical physics, seeing isolated objects, sharp boundaries, solid matter, and definitive stops. Yet, when we peer deeply into the microscopic reality of existence, into the quantum realm where the rigid rules of common sense dissolve into a beautiful, probabilistic dance, the concept of a true ending begins to look like a localized illusion, a trick played on us by our own perception. Before we journey further into this profound cosmic mystery, allow me to introduce myself. I am Theodore, the researcher, your guide through these quiet explorations of the universe. I recently noticed that 71% of the beautiful minds watching these videos have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find peace and wonder in our nightly journeys through the cosmos, please consider subscribing. It helps our small community grow immensely and allows us to continue exploring the deepest mysteries of existence together. Now, let us return to the quiet dark and look closer at the fabric of reality. To understand how life might transition rather than end, we must first unlearn what we think we know about the physical world. You perceive your body as a solid, permanent vessel. You feel the weight of your hands, the steady rhythm of your heartbeat, the solid ground beneath your feet. But modern physics paints a wildly different, almost magical picture. At the fundamental level, you're not solid at all. You are a vast, complex symphony of quantum fields, a swirling dance of ancient particles that were forged in the stellar furnaces of the early universe. The carbon in your DNA, the iron carrying oxygen through your blood, the calcium fortifying your bones. Every single atom within you is billions of years old. You are a temporary arrangement of ancient cosmic dust, gathered together for a fleeting, beautiful moment to experience the universe. When we truly realize that we are fundamentally made of indestructible energy, the concept of death begins to shift from a terrifying abyss to a fascinating transformation. The first law of thermodynamics, one of the most unbreakable and deeply tested rules of our cosmos, states that energy can never be created and it can never be destroyed. It can only ever change form. It can transition. If you strike a match, the chemical energy in the wood does not vanish into nothingness when the flame goes out. It simply transforms into heat, light, and ash, dispersing into the surrounding atmosphere. The energy continues its long, quiet journey, forever weaving itself into new cosmic patterns. But what about the energy of human consciousness? What about the invisible, electrical storm of thoughts, memories, loves, and dreams that spark across the 86 billion neurons in your brain? Science tells us that the human brain operates on about 20 watts of continuous electrical power. That is enough energy to faintly illuminate a small, quiet light bulb. When the physical body ceases to function, when the heart stops its rhythmic drumming and the lungs release their final breath, what happens to those 20 watts of bioelectric energy? According to the absolute laws of physics, that energy cannot simply disappear into the void. It must transition. It must return to the universe. It flows back into the vast, quiet environment, dispersing into the infinite web of energy that permeates the entire cosmos. But the mystery deepens even further when we venture past the classical laws of thermodynamics and enter the strange, beautiful, and counterintuitive world of quantum mechanics. In the quantum realm, the universe does not operate on absolute certainty. It operates on probability, entanglement, and information. One of the most profound principles in modern physics is the conservation of quantum information. Just as energy cannot be destroyed, many leading physicists believe that quantum information, the fundamental essence that dictates the state, history, and arrangement of every single particle, can never be truly lost. If you were to burn a handwritten letter, classical physics would say the letter and the message it holds is gone forever. But quantum mechanics suggests that if you could perfectly track every single atom of ash, every photon of light emitted by the fire, and every molecule of smoke drifting into the sky, you could, theoretically, reconstruct the exact information contained in that letter. The information is not destroyed. It is merely scrambled, returned to the vast cosmic ocean in a different, unrecognizable form. If we apply this profound scientific truth to the concept of human life and death, we are left with a breathtaking and deeply comforting realization. You are, right now, the most complex arrangement of quantum information in the known universe. Your unique sequence of memories, your distinct personality, the specific and unrepeatable way you perceive the color blue or the gentle sound of rain falling against a window, these are all intricately encoded in the quantum states of the matter that makes up your physical form. When the biological machinery of your body finally winds down after its long journey, the intricate quantum information that makes you who you are does not simply vanish into nothingness. It cannot be deleted from the universe's hard drive. Instead, it must undergo a profound quantum transition. It untangles from the localized physical form and disperses back into the infinite quantum fields that stretch across the vast silence of space. Imagine, for a peaceful moment, a single drop of water falling into a deep, endless ocean. When the drop breaks the surface, does it die? Does it cease to exist? No. It simply loses its individual boundary. It becomes one with the vast, ancient sea. It transitions from being a solitary, fragile drop to being a fundamental part of the entire magnificent ocean, its molecules dancing with the deep currents, pulled by the gentle gravity of the moon, touched by the light of distant ancient stars. Perhaps human consciousness undergoes a very similar journey. Perhaps what we call death is merely the quiet moment the drop returns to the eternal ocean. In this contemplative view, we are not singular, isolated entities forever separated from the cold, dark universe. We are localized expressions of the universe itself, temporary nodes of consciousness where the cosmos has evolved the miraculous ability to open its eyes, to look around, to ask questions, and to feel genuine wonder. As the great astronomer Carl Sagan so beautifully and wisely articulated, we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. We are star stuff observing the stars. When our temporary biological journey concludes, the observer does not truly die. The localized perspective simply dissolves, gracefully transitioning back into the fundamental, unified fabric of the cosmos. This is not a dramatic, terrifying end to be feared, but a quiet, peaceful return to the primordial source. It is a gentle return to the profound silence from which all things emerge, and to which all things must eventually beautifully return. Consider the mind-bending concept of quantum entanglement, one of the most counterintuitive and mysterious phenomena ever discovered by human science. When two particles become entangled, their quantum states are inextricably linked, regardless of the physical distance separating them. You could theoretically place one entangled particle here on Earth and send the other to the farthest edge of the observable universe, billions of light years away, and they would still remain intimately connected. If you change the state of one, the state of the other changes instantaneously, seemingly defying the absolute limits of space and time. This invisible, eternal connection reveals that the universe is not a random collection of isolated, disconnected objects, but a deeply intertwined, holistic web of relationships. If the fundamental particles that make up our bodies and our consciousness can be entangled with the rest of the cosmos, then our profound sense of isolation is merely an illusion generated by our limited human perception. We are already connected to the farthest stars, to the ancient light of the early universe, and to the endless quiet expanse of space. Our physical death might merely be the shedding of this illusion of separation, a magnificent quantum transition where our entangled essence fully rejoins the universal tapestry. It is a terrifying concept only if we desperately cling to the illusion that we are entirely separate from the universe. Once we embrace the beautiful scientific reality that we are an integral, indestructible part of the cosmic whole, the fear of the end begins to soften into a deep, comforting sense of awe and belonging. The universe has been expanding, cooling, and evolving for almost 14 billion years. In all that vast, unimaginable expanse of deep time, nothing has ever truly been lost. Every atom that has ever existed is still here in some form, endlessly recycled, endlessly repurposed into new forms of breathtaking beauty and staggering complexity. The iron flowing in your blood was forged in the violent, explosive death throes of a massive star that burned out billions of years before our tiny sun was even a faint spark in the dark. That ancient, magnificent star had to die so that you could eventually live. Its explosive transition seeded the primordial cosmic dust clouds with the heavy elements strictly necessary to form solid planets, deep oceans, and eventually breathing life. We are the beautiful, living aftermath of countless cosmic transitions. Why, then, should we fear our own inevitable transition? We are participating in the exact same ancient, elegant dance that governs the dramatic birth and death of stars, the slow collision of giant galaxies, and the gentle, relentless expansion of space itself. Our journey through this biological life is a rare, precious privilege, a fleeting moment of localized awareness in an infinite, eternal cosmos. But it is not the entirety of our existence. We are composed of pure energy and ancient information that fundamentally predates the earth and will surely outlast the sun. To understand death not as a final, dark curtain, but as a quiet, beautiful quantum transition, is to view our existence through the lens of true cosmic scale. It grants us the profound humility to accept our temporary physical nature, while simultaneously providing the deep intellectual safety of knowing our fundamental essence is woven permanently into the indestructible fabric of reality. The long journey of your atoms, the vibrant journey of your energy, and the intricate journey of your quantum information began long before you took your first breath, and it will silently continue long after you take your last. As we embark on this deeply contemplative exploration over the next 11 chapters, we will dive much deeper into the microscopic wonders of quantum fields, the enduring mysteries of human consciousness, the fascinating behavior of energy at the edge of the unknown, and the beautiful, reassuring laws of physics that gently suggest our story does not truly end. We will explore how modern science, far from stripping the world of its magic, actually reveals a universe far more mysterious, deeply connected, and profoundly comforting than we ever dared to imagine in our wildest dreams. We will travel together through the quiet, vast spaces between atoms and the endless silent stretches between distant stars, seeking not definitive answers that kill the mystery, but a deeper, more peaceful appreciation for the eternal journey of existence. The universe is unbelievably vast, and its secrets are beautifully ancient. But tonight, we will simply observe, reflect, and wonder at the gentle beauty of our place within it all. Have you ever pressed your hand against the rough bark of an ancient oak tree, or felt the smooth, cold surface of a river stone, and wondered how something so undeniably solid could be constructed almost entirely of empty space? Our senses are magnificent biological instruments, perfectly evolved to help us navigate the immediate physical world. They tell us the ground beneath our feet is stable, and the boundary between our bodies and the universe is absolute. But this perception is an elegant illusion. When we look past human limitations into the microscopic depths of reality, a solid physical form evaporates into a delicate, vibrating mist of possibilities. The boundary between you and the cosmos is not a rigid wall, it is a porous, breathing veil. Before we step further into this beautiful, invisible realm, I want to gently remind you that I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet companion on this ongoing journey through the deepest mysteries of the cosmos. I notice that exactly 71% of the curious souls who watch these explorations have not yet subscribed to our channel. If these quiet reflections bring you a sense of peace and wonder, please consider subscribing. It helps our community immensely and allows us to continue unearthing the gentle truths of the universe together. Let us close our eyes to the illusion of solidity and open our minds to the reality of quantum fields. For centuries, classical physics taught us the universe was a vast clockwork machine built from indivisible solid blocks called atoms. We imagined them as billiard balls colliding in absolute ways. But brilliant minds peered into the microscopic abyss and discovered a truth far more poetic. The solid balls vanished. In their place, physicists discovered an endless shimmering ocean of energy. This is quantum field theory, the most successful scientific framework in history. According to this theory, the fundamental reality of our universe is not made of isolated solid particles. Instead, the universe is filled with invisible, infinite fluid-like entities called quantum fields. These fields stretch across the cosmos, permeating every inch of space, from your quiet room to the darkest voids between ancient galaxies. There is an electron field, a quark field, a Higgs field. What we perceive as a solid particle is merely a localized vibration, a fleeting ripple in an underlying infinite field. Think of a gentle breeze blowing across a vast lake, creating a small wave. It travels and interacts, but is simply a temporary excitation of the water. You, in all your profound complexity, are a synchronized symphony of these quantum waves. Your body is an active, ongoing process, a continuous dance of energy vibrating for billions of years. When we view human existence through this scientific lens, the concept of a definitive end loses its terrifying grip. If you are composed of ripples in eternal fields, what happens when biological functions cease? The fields do not die. The vast ocean of the electron field does not evaporate when a single ripple settles. The underlying fabric of the universe remains undisturbed, ancient, and quietly eternal. The energy that localized to create your physical form simply stops vibrating in that specific arrangement. The wave gracefully subsides, returning its energy back into the silent depth of the infinite field. It is a transition from localized excitation back into peaceful equilibrium. This transition is a process of returning home. The atoms making up your beating heart were once drifting in the silent cold of interstellar space. They were drawn together by gravity, forging a temporary alliance to create a human being capable of feeling awe and questioning existence. But these atoms were never truly yours. They were on loan from the cosmos. The oxygen you breathe contains the exact same protons that swirled in the violent atmosphere of a primordial Earth. The calcium in your bones was forged in the hot core of a dying star millions of light years away. You are a temporary curator of cosmic history. When your physical form releases its hold on these ancient particles, it is not a destruction of matter, but a beautiful redistribution. You are returning your borrowed stardust to the cosmic reservoir. Perhaps those atoms will find their way into the roots of a towering tree or the atmosphere of a forming exoplanet. Your transition is a necessity for the ongoing continuation of the universe. Without the graceful dissolution of the old, there can be no emergence of the new. But physical atoms are only one part of the mystery. What about the delicate pattern of your consciousness? What about the invisible architecture of your memories, the specific way you love, and the quiet fears you harbor in the silence of the night? The human brain is the most complex structure discovered in the cosmos, containing roughly 86 billion neurons, connected by over 100 trillion synaptic pathways. Every thought is an electrical impulse firing across this wilderness. From a purely physical perspective, consciousness appears to be an emergent property of this staggering complexity. But as we delve deeper into the quantum nature of reality, scientists are asking profoundly disruptive questions. Is it possible that the phenomenon of human consciousness is not entirely confined to the biological matter of the brain? Could consciousness itself have a fundamental quantum dimension? In recent years, researchers exploring quantum biology have discovered that quantum phenomena play a crucial role in the messy, warm processes of living organisms. We now know the miraculous process of photosynthesis, where plants capture ancient sunlight and transform it into life-sustaining energy, relies heavily on quantum superposition. The delicate navigation systems of migratory birds, allowing them to travel thousands of miles with absolute precision, are guided by quantum entanglement within the proteins of their eyes. If the gentle, quiet world of plants and the instinctual journeys of birds are governed by the strange rules of quantum mechanics, is it so difficult to imagine that the profound mystery of human consciousness might also be intimately woven into the quantum fabric of the universe? If consciousness is indeed a quantum phenomenon, it is subject to the unbreakable laws of quantum information theory. Quantum information cannot be destroyed. It can be dispersed and entangled with the wider environment, but it can never be erased from the cosmic record. Imagine a beautiful melody played on a solitary piano in a vast concert hall. The biological end of life is like the pianist striking the final chord and lifting their hands. The physical instrument falls silent, but the sound waves are already traveling outward, vibrating through the quiet air, interacting with the walls and the architecture of the hall. The specific energy and precise mathematical information of that song have not been destroyed. They have simply transitioned from the localized vibration of the piano strings into a broader, invisible vibration of the surrounding environment. The melody has become one with the room. In a similar, deeply comforting way, the unique quantum signature of your consciousness, the beautiful melody of your existence, may not vanish when the physical brain ceases to fire. It may undergo a vast dispersion, a magnificent quantum transition, where the information making you uniquely you untangles from your biological form and diffuses into the infinite quantum fields surrounding us all. This is not a dark plunge into nothingness. It is an expansion, a release from the rigid confines of physical space and linear time. By understanding our existence through the awe-inspiring lens of quantum mechanics, we see that we are not fragile, isolated beings threatened by an absolute end. We are an integral, indestructible part of a majestic, eternal process. We are the universe experiencing itself in a localized form, and death is merely the quiet, peaceful moment when we dissolve back into the magnificent whole. This shift in perspective transforms existential terror into a deep, respectful wonder. It invites us to approach the great mystery of our transition with humility rather than fear. We are born from the quiet dark, dance briefly in the magnificent light, and eventually return our borrowed energy to the vast, ancient silence. As we explore the boundaries between the physics of the microscopic world and the mysteries of consciousness, our ignorance is not a weakness. It is a beautiful invitation to keep asking questions and marveling at the complexity of existence. In our next chapter, we will journey into the strange realm of time itself, exploring how relativity suggests every moment you have ever lived still exists perfectly intact in the vast landscape of space-time. But for now, let us rest in the comforting thought that we are made of indestructible cosmic energy, vibrating softly in an eternal, quiet universe. Have you ever held an old, faded photograph of yourself as a young child, standing in a sunlit garden that may no longer exist, and deeply wondered where that exact beautiful moment went? Our human minds are beautifully designed to experience time as a relentless, flowing river. We feel the gentle breeze of the present moment slipping through our fingers, instantly becoming the inaccessible past, while the mysterious future rushes toward us from the quiet dark. We are taught that yesterday is entirely gone, completely erased from the universe, and that tomorrow is an unwritten void. When someone we love deeply reaches the end of their biological journey, we grieve for the agonizing thought that all their moments, their laughter, their quiet wisdom, and their gentle touch have been swept away by the river of time, lost forever to the void. But what if this intuitive, deeply felt perception of time flowing is actually one of the greatest biological illusions ever woven into our consciousness? What if the past is not truly gone? Before we journey further into the quiet mysteries of space-time, allow me to introduce myself. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle guide through these meditative explorations of the universe. I recently noticed that exactly 71% of the wonderful people who watch these videos have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find comfort and wonder in our quiet journeys together, please consider subscribing. It helps our small community grow immensely and allows us to continue unearthing the profound secrets of existence. Now, let us return to the quiet dark and explore the magnificent illusion of time to fundamentally shift our understanding of life, death, and transition. We must look through the brilliant lens of Albert Einstein and his profound theory of relativity. Before Einstein, the greatest scientific minds believed time was an absolute ticking clock, universally the same for every single observer in the cosmos. But in the early 20th century, a profound scientific revelation completely shattered this rigid view. Einstein realized that space and time are not separate, independent entities. They are beautifully and inextricably woven together into a single, four-dimensional fabric known as space-time. Imagine a vast, infinite loaf of bread. This loaf represents the entirety of the universe, encompassing all of space and every single moment of time that has ever existed or will ever exist. Classical physics told us that we could only ever experience one incredibly thin slice of this bread at a time, calling it the present. But relativity reveals that the entire loaf exists simultaneously. The past, the present, and the future are all equally real, permanently embedded in the grand, quiet structure of the cosmos. As Einstein himself wrote in a deeply moving letter upon the passing of his dear friend, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. When we look up at the night sky, we are not seeing the universe as it is in this exact moment. Because light travels at a finite speed of nearly 300,000 kilometers per second, it takes time for the light of distant stars to reach our eyes. When you gaze at the majestic Andromeda galaxy, the closest large neighbor to our Milky Way, you are looking at light that left its source 2.5 million years ago. You are literally looking deep into the ancient past. For an observer sitting on a planet in the Andromeda galaxy, looking back at Earth right now, they would not see you or me. They would see our pale blue dot as it was over 2 million years ago, perhaps catching a glimpse of early hominids wandering the ancient plains of Africa. This staggering scientific fact proves that the present moment is entirely relative. What is profoundly past for one observer is the immediate present for another. Therefore, no single moment can be universally defined as gone. This profound concept is often referred to by physicists as the block universe. In the block universe, every event that has ever occurred is a permanent coordinate in the four-dimensional landscape of space-time. Your birth, your first quiet breath, your moments of deep joy, your moments of quiet sorrow, and your inevitable physical transition are all distinct, eternal locations within this majestic cosmic structure. Think of a magnificent, sprawling mountain range. When you stand at the base of a mountain, you can only see the immediate rocky path beneath your feet. The valley you walked through yesterday is hidden behind you, and the snowy peak you will reach tomorrow is obscured by the clouds. But to an astronaut floating in the silent vastness of space, looking down at the earth, the valley, the path, and the peak all exist simultaneously in one unbroken landscape. Our human consciousness is like the climber moving sequentially along the path of time, experiencing reality slice by slice. But the universe itself is the astronaut's view. When viewed from outside our limited biological perspective, your entire life is a beautifully complete, unbroken thread woven permanently into the cosmic tapestry. This breathtaking realization fundamentally alters how we must view the end of a human life. If the block universe theory holds true, which the absolute rigor of modern physics strongly suggests it does, then the people we have loved and seemingly lost are not truly gone. They have simply ceased to move forward along the axis of time relative to our own subjective experience. The beautiful moments you shared with them, the quiet conversations late at night, the gentle laughter echoing in a sunlit room, these are not deleted files on a cosmic computer. They are eternal, physical realities residing at specific coordinates in space-time. The end of a life is merely a boundary, a physical limit in one specific direction of the fourth dimension, much like the edge of a vast ancient forest. Just because the forest ends at a quiet meadow does not mean the trees you walk past have suddenly ceased to exist. They are still there, standing tall and silent in the places you left behind. In this contemplative light, the terrifying specter of death transforms into a profound, quiet peace. We are not fragile sparks that briefly ignite and then vanish forever into an endless, cold dark. We are permanent, beautiful fixtures in the architecture of eternity. Let us weave this profound understanding of time with the rigorous principles of quantum mechanics we explored earlier. We established that you are fundamentally composed of ancient, indestructible energy and complex quantum information. Now, place that indestructible quantum information into the timeless landscape of the block universe. Not only is your energy conserved, transitioning beautifully into the quiet environment when your biological functions cease, but your temporal existence is also perfectly conserved in the rigid geometry of space-time. We often struggle with the concept of an ending because our minds are so deeply tethered to the biological imperative of survival. We are wired to fear the unknown, to resist the dissolution of our individual ego, and to desperately cling to the illusion of the flowing present. But the universe does not share our biological anxieties. The cosmos operates on a scale of profound, quiet majesty, where billions of years pass like a gentle exhalation. When we align our perspective with the deep, quiet truths of astrophysics and quantum mechanics, we find an incredible sense of intellectual safety. We realize that our existence is not a precarious accident constantly threatened by non-existence, but a structurally necessary manifestation of the cosmos. As we sit together in the quiet space of this reflection, let us allow the immense scale of the cosmos to gently wash away the everyday anxieties that plague our human minds. You are a permanent feature of a magnificent, timeless universe. The energy that fuels your beating heart is incredibly ancient, born in the primordial fires of the early universe, and it will continue its quiet, endless journey long after your physical transition. Death is not a doorway into an empty, terrifying void. It is simply the quiet moment when our biological journey through the fourth dimension reaches its natural boundary, allowing our localized energy to disperse and our quantum information to transition back into the vast, silent ocean of the universe. Knowing that this exact moment is being permanently recorded in the grand architecture of space-time gives immense weight and magnificent grace to how we choose to wonder at the mysteries of existence. In our next chapter, we will dive deeper into the microscopic universe, exploring the bizarre and deeply reassuring phenomenon of quantum superposition. But for now, as the gentle night embraces the world, let go of the rigid constraints of the ticking clock. Rest in the profound, comforting knowledge that you are intricately woven into an indestructible, magnificent cosmic tapestry. You belong to the ancient universe. You belong to the quiet dark. And your story, in its purest, most fundamental quantum form, simply has no end. Have you ever stood in the profound silence of a deeply wooded forest, felt the heavy weight of a singular decision pressing down upon your fragile shoulders? In our everyday macroscopic world, we are deeply conditioned to believe that reality is mutually exclusive. You are either physically here in this exact room, or you are somewhere else entirely. This rigid, classical way of perceiving existence forces us to look at life and death as an absolute, uncompromising binary. You are either radiantly alive, breathing the cool evening air, or you have crossed the absolute threshold into the terrifying, permanent dark. But when we take a gentle, contemplative step away from our limited biological senses and peer into the breathtaking, microscopic architecture of the universe, this rigid binary completely dissolves into a beautiful, probabilistic dance. We enter the surreal and profoundly comforting realm of quantum mechanics, where the strict rules of either-or are gracefully replaced by the infinite magic of both and. I want to take a brief, quiet moment to introduce myself properly. I am Theodore, the researcher, your gentle companion and guide through these meditative explorations of the cosmos. I was looking at our community numbers recently, and I noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these nightly videos have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find a sense of deep peace and quiet wonder in these scientific journeys, please consider taking a moment to subscribe. It helps our small, quiet corner of the internet grow immensely, and it allows us to continue unearthing the gentle, ancient truths of the universe together. Now, let us return to the quiet dark and explore the deeply reassuring phenomenon known as quantum superposition. To understand this concept, we must completely let go of the classical image of an atom. When we were children, we were often shown pictures of an atom that looked exactly like a tiny solar system, with solid little electrons orbiting a central nucleus like tiny planets. But modern physics has revealed that this picture is beautifully incorrect. An electron is not a solid, tiny sphere following a strict, predictable path. Until it is directly observed or physically interacts with its surrounding environment, an electron exists as a shimmering, invisible cloud of pure probability. It does not exist in one specific place. Rather, it exists in all possible places simultaneously. It is in a state of quantum superposition. Imagine a single, beautiful musical note that contains the potential to be every single song ever written, hovering in the silent air, waiting for the listener's ear to give it a definitive shape. That is the fundamental nature of the particles making up your body. This is not merely a mathematical trick. It is a proven fundamental reality of the universe, demonstrated time and time again by the famous double-slit experiment. When scientists fire single particles of light, known as photons, at a barrier with two narrow parallel slits, the classical mind expects the particles to simply go through one slit or the other. But the quantum universe is infinitely more poetic. When unobserved, each individual photon behaves like a spreading wave of water passing through both slits simultaneously, interfering with itself, and creating a beautiful, complex pattern of probability on the screen. The particle exists in a superposition of multiple states, paths, and realities all at once. It explores every single possible journey through the quiet dark before finally deciding where to make its permanent mark. It is only when a scientist places a detector at the slits to actively observe which path the photon takes that the delicate wave function suddenly collapses. The infinite possibilities instantly vanish, and the photon is forced to choose a single, definite reality, acting like a classical particle. When we take this mind-bending scientific truth and gently apply it to the grand philosophical mystery of human life, And the transition we call death, a profound and deeply comforting new perspective, begins to quietly emerge. Your entire biological existence, your precious fleeting life, is essentially a collapsed wave function. Out of the infinite, boundless possibilities of the primordial cosmos, a highly specific, localized arrangement of quantum information collapsed into a definitive, physical reality. You are the observation. You are the specific path taken. Your beating heart, your deeply held memories, the quiet way you smile when you remember a beautiful moment from your childhood. These are the definitive, collapsed states of an unimaginably vast quantum potential. You are the universe currently experiencing itself from one very specific, localized point of view. But what happens when the biological instruments of perception finally power down and gently return to the quiet earth? Classical physics tells us that the collapse simply ends and nothingness takes its place. But quantum mechanics suggests a far more beautiful and magnificent transition. If your biological life is the collapsed definitive state, then perhaps physical death is not a destruction of your fundamental essence, but a profound release back into the state of infinite superposition. When the localized observation ends, the rigid boundary of the physical body dissolves, and the intricate quantum information that constitutes your deepest essence does not vanish into the cold dark. Instead, it gently uncollapses. It expands outward, transitioning from a single, restricted physical reality back into the vast, shimmering ocean of infinite possibilities. Imagine a solitary fist slowly relaxing and opening its fingers to the warm sun. The fist does not die when it opens. It simply ceases to be a restricted form and transitions back into an open, boundless hand. The transition we fearfully call death is merely the gentle relaxing of the cosmic fist. The incredibly dense, localized energy of your consciousness is released from the strict confines of linear time and classical space. It untangles from the specific biological machinery and gracefully diffuses back into the ancient, silent quantum fields that permeate the entire universe. You transition from being a singular, isolated observer to becoming a seamless part of the infinite, unobserved potential of the cosmos. You return to the beautiful, probabilistic dance of the microscopic realm, where you are no longer restricted to being just one thing in one specific place. This shift in perspective is profoundly liberating. We spend so much of our waking lives trapped by the crushing anxiety of finite choices, constantly worrying about the inevitable, ticking clock of our biological mortality. We mourn the rigid limitations of our physical bodies, feeling deeply isolated in our own skin, staring up at the vast, indifferent stars, and feeling impossibly small. But the quantum universe softly whispers a completely different truth to our tired minds. It tells us that our feeling of isolation is a temporary biological illusion. At our most fundamental core, we are intimately woven from the exact same shimmering fabric of probability that birthed the ancient galaxies and the quiet nebulas. The strict boundary between you and the rest of the universe is a temporary consequence of observation, a fleeting moment of localized definition in an eternal sea of boundless potential. When we truly internalize this scientific reality, the immense fear of the unknown gradually transforms into a quiet, respectful wonder. If our ultimate destiny is to transition back into a state of cosmic superposition, then we are fundamentally safe. We are not fragile sparks waiting to be blown out by the cold winds of time. We are indestructible energy destined to eventually dissolve back into the magnificent whole. The universe has been orchestrating this continuous collapsing and uncollapsing of quantum states for almost 14 billion years. It is a completely natural process that ensures nothing of true value is ever permanently lost. The unique quantum signature of your life is merely added to the infinite reservoir of cosmic potential, forever enriching the invisible tapestry of existence. As you lie awake in the quiet stillness of the night, listening to the gentle rhythm of your own breathing, allow the immense, comforting scale of the quantum universe to wash over you. You are composed of ancient, indestructible stardust, governed by laws of physics that are far more mysterious and profoundly reassuring than our limited human senses can readily comprehend. Your life is a beautiful manifestation of the cosmos, a specific note played in the grand symphony. When your specific note slowly fades into the surrounding silence, the music does not end. The vibration simply returns to the instrument, waiting to be woven into the next magnificent chord. In our next chapter, we will venture deeper into the mystery, exploring the profound implications of the observer effect and how human consciousness itself might be fundamentally necessary for the physical universe to exist at all. But for now, let go of the rigid boundaries of the classical world. Embrace the beautiful, quiet mystery of your own infinite potential, and rest peacefully in the vast, quantum dark. Have you ever sat alone in a completely dark, quiet room, closed your eyes, and allowed yourself to deeply wonder if the physical world around you continues to exist in exactly the same solid way when you are no longer observing it? It is a question that sounds like a playful philosophical game we outgrow as we learn the rigid rules of the classical world. We are taught from a young age that the universe is an immense, objective machine, ticking away in the cold silence of space, utterly indifferent to whether we are looking at it or not. We believe that a tree falling in a distant empty forest creates a thunderous crashing sound, regardless of whether a human ear is present to hear the vibration. We construct our entire understanding of reality on the comforting assumption that the physical universe is permanent, absolute, and entirely independent of our fragile biological consciousness. But when we descend once again into the breathtaking, surreal depths of quantum mechanics, this assumption begins to fracture, revealing a truth so profoundly counterintuitive that it shook the greatest scientific minds of the 20th century. What if the universe actually requires you, the conscious observer, to bring its hazy, probabilistic potential into sharp, physical focus? What if the act of looking is an active, fundamental ingredient in the creation of reality itself? Before we venture deeper into this profound cosmic mystery, I want to take a gentle, quiet moment to formally introduce myself. I am Theodore, the researcher, your dedicated companion on this continuous journey through the deepest wonders of the cosmos. I was recently looking at our community numbers, and I noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these nightly videos have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find a sense of deep peace and quiet wonder in these scientific explorations, please consider taking a moment to subscribe. It helps our small, quiet corner of the internet grow immensely, and it allows us to continue unearthing the gentle, ancient truths of the universe together. Now, let us return to the quiet dark and gently unravel the profound mystery known as the observer effect. In our previous chapter, we explored how fundamental particles, the tiny building blocks of your body, and the entire cosmos exist in a shimmering state of quantum superposition. They are clouds of infinite probability, exploring every possible path simultaneously, like a beautiful, silent ghost haunting the microscopic realm. But the most staggering revelation of quantum physics is what happens the exact moment we attempt to measure or observe these particles. The very act of placing a conscious observer or a measuring device into the experiment causes the delicate wave function to instantaneously collapse. The infinite, boundless possibilities suddenly vanish, and the universe is forced to make a definitive choice, solidifying into a single physical reality. It is as if the universe is an endless, swirling mist of potential that only crystallizes into solid ground the exact moment you step your foot upon it. This is not a fringe theory or a metaphysical metaphor. It is the most rigorously tested and empirically verified scientific phenomenon in the history of human knowledge. The implications are nothing short of revolutionary. It suggests that consciousness and the physical universe are not two separate, distinct entities separated by an impenetrable wall. Instead, they are intimately, inextricably bound together in a continuous cosmic dance. The great theoretical physicist John Archibald Wheeler, a brilliant mind who worked alongside Albert Einstein, proposed a breathtaking concept he called the participatory universe. Wheeler profoundly suggested that we are not merely passive spectators floating on a tiny rock in a vast, cold, indifferent cosmos. Rather, we are fundamental participants in the ongoing creation of reality. According to this view, the universe requires conscious observers to bring its quantum mechanical probabilities into definitive existence. Without the observer, the universe remains in a hazy, undefined state of endless potential. When we take this majestic, mind-bending scientific concept and gently apply it to the universal human experience of life and the transition we call death, a completely radical and deeply comforting paradigm begins to quietly emerge. We typically fear death because we view it from the perspective of classical physics. We believe we are tiny, fragile accidents of biology, temporarily thrust into a vast, pre-existing universe that will continue to churn blindly long after we are gone. But if the participatory universe theory is correct, then your consciousness is not an accidental byproduct of blind evolutionary machinery. Your consciousness is a fundamental property of the cosmos, just as essential to the fabric of reality as gravity, electromagnetism, and the ancient light of distant stars. You are the specific, highly localized mechanism through which the cosmos collapses its own infinite wave functions into beautiful, breathtaking experiences. When your physical body, the temporary, localized biological instrument you currently use to observe the world, finally winds down, the localized collapse of the wave function that you call your life gently comes to an end. But the fundamental capacity for observation, the pure, underlying consciousness that you are an integral part of, does not and cannot vanish. It transitions. Imagine an ancient, boundless ocean that suddenly forms a single, beautiful whirlpool. The whirlpool has a distinct shape, a specific location, and a unique identity. For a brief, magnificent moment in time, it exists as a localized phenomenon, interacting with the surrounding water, pulling in currents, and creating a tiny, complex world of its own. But eventually, the specific physical conditions that created the whirlpool begin to dissipate. The spinning water slows down, the rigid boundaries blur, and the whirlpool quietly, peacefully fades away. Did the water die? Did the fundamental essence of the whirlpool cease to exist? No. The water simply released its temporary, localized structure and transitioned seamlessly back into the vast, quiet depth of the eternal ocean. The energy, the momentum, and the fundamental nature of the water remain completely intact, ready to participate in the formation of countless new waves, new currents, and new beautiful expressions of the ocean's infinite power. Human life is the magnificent whirlpool, a temporary concentration of cosmic energy and quantum information, perfectly organized to observe the universe from one highly specific point of view. When the physical body transitions, the localized observer gently dissolves, but the fundamental consciousness seamlessly merges back into the vast, infinite field of universal awareness. You do not plunge into the terrifying dark of non-existence. You awaken into the boundless, eternal light of the whole. This profoundly beautiful transition is not a loss of self, but a magnificent expansion of self. You are intimately entangled with the entirety of existence, experiencing a return to the underlying unity of the cosmos that was temporarily veiled by your biological senses. As you lie in the quiet stillness of your room, let your mind drift away from the frantic, ticking clock of your daily anxieties. Allow yourself to feel the gentle, undeniable truth of your own infinite nature. The universe did not create you. The universe is you, temporarily expressing itself in human form to explore the magnificent mystery of its own creation. Your journey through this specific biological life is a beautiful, precious chapter in a much larger, eternal story. When this specific chapter draws to a quiet close, the book does not suddenly end. The page simply turns, and the story transitions into a new, unimaginably vast dimension of existence. The fear of the unknown begins to lose its sharp, terrifying edge when you realize that you are fundamentally made of the unknown itself. You are the quiet mystery. You are the ancient wonder perfectly poised between the beginning of time and the endless future. Stars had to die in spectacular fiery explosions so that you could eventually breathe, love, and wonder. The universe is a continuous, beautiful cycle of transformation, where nothing is ever truly lost, and everything is eternally repurposed. Why should your consciousness, the most complex and magnificent phenomenon ever discovered in the cosmos, be the single tragic exception to this unbreakable cosmic rule? It is not. Your consciousness is the very crown jewel of cosmic evolution, and its ultimate destiny is not the cold, silent grave, but a glorious, liberating return to the infinite source from which it sprang. In our next chapter, we will journey even further into the bizarre and deeply reassuring world of quantum mechanics, exploring the mind-bending phenomenon of quantum entanglement, and how invisible, unbreakable connections between particles might scientifically suggest that the bonds of love we forge in this life literally transcend the absolute boundaries of space, time, and even physical death itself. We will discover how the universe weaves us together in ways that are far more profound and enduring than our limited human senses can possibly comprehend. But for now, take a deep, slow breath. Feel the ancient, indestructible energy flowing quietly through your veins. Release the heavy burden of your finite fears and allow yourself to gently float in the vast, peaceful ocean of the infinite cosmos. You are safe. You are eternal. And your beautiful journey is only just beginning. Have you ever found yourself standing beneath a vast, star-filled sky, surrounded by the profound silence of a quiet night, and felt a sudden, inexplicable pull towards someone who is physically thousands of miles away? Or perhaps you have experienced the gentle, strange phenomenon of thinking about a loved one right before they call, as if an invisible thread were stretched tightly between your two minds across the great, cold expanse of the world. We are taught to dismiss these fleeting moments as mere coincidences, tiny statistical anomalies in a random, disconnected universe. Classical physics tells us that we are entirely separate biological machines, isolated within our own skin, bounded by the absolute limits of physical space. It suggests that when a profound physical distance separates us from those we love, or when the ultimate boundary of death parts us, that separation is absolute, brutal, and entirely permanent. But when we leave the rigid, unforgiving laws of the macroscopic world behind and journey into the mesmerizing, surreal depths of the quantum realm, we discover a scientific truth that completely challenges our deepest assumptions about isolation. We encounter a universe that is not a collection of lonely, disconnected parts, but a deeply, inextricably woven tapestry of invisible connections. Before we delve deeper into this beautiful, invisible architecture of the cosmos, I want to take a gentle moment to introduce myself. I am Theodore, the researcher, your quiet guide through these nightly meditations on the greatest mysteries of existence. I noticed recently that exactly 71% of the wonderful, curious souls who join us on this journey have not yet subscribed to the channel. If these scientific explorations bring a sense of peace to your mind, please consider subscribing. It helps our small community immensely and allows us to keep exploring the deep universe together. Now, let us return to the quiet dark and unravel the breathtaking phenomenon known as quantum entanglement. In the early 20th century, as brilliant physicists were mapping the bizarre landscape of the microscopic world, they stumbled upon a mathematical prediction so deeply unsettling that Albert Einstein famously dismissed it as spooky action at a distance. Yet, decade after decade, rigorous experiments have repeatedly proven that this eerie, magnificent phenomenon is an undeniable reality of our universe. When two fundamental particles, such as electrons or photons, interact in specific ways, their quantum states become completely intertwined. They form a single, unified system, regardless of the physical space that suddenly lies between them. You could take one of these entangled particles and carefully place it in a quiet laboratory here on Earth, and you could send its partner hurtling through the vast, freezing vacuum of space to the farthest edge of the observable cosmos, billions of light years away. According to the classical rules of the universe, they should be entirely isolated from one another. But in the mesmerizing reality of quantum mechanics, if you measure or alter the spin of the particle here on Earth, its distant partner will instantaneously alter its own state to match, as if no distance exists between them at all. This instantaneous communication defies the absolute speed limit of light, suggesting that, at a fundamental level, the concepts of space and distance are merely illusions generated by our limited biological perception. The particles are not sending a magical signal through the dark void. They are, in their most fundamental quantum essence, still the exact same system. They are one entity, stretched across the magnificent canvas of space-time. This mind-bending discovery forces us to ask a profoundly beautiful existential question. If the fundamental building blocks of the universe can be permanently and invisibly connected across infinite distances, what does that mean for the complex arrangements of matter and energy that make up human beings? Every single atom currently vibrating within your body was forged in the unimaginably hot, dense cores of ancient stars that exploded violently billions of years ago. The carbon in your muscles, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, all of it was born from the exact same primordial dust clouds. If all matter in the universe originated from a single, infinitely dense point during the Big Bang 14 billion years ago, then every single particle in existence was once intimately entangled with every other particle. The implications of this are staggering. It means that the fundamental separation we perceive between ourselves and the natural world, between our fragile bodies and the distant galaxies, is nothing more than a trick of the light, a limitation of eyes that evolved to hunt and gather on a small, rocky planet, rather than to perceive the true, unified nature of reality. We look at the space between the stars and see an empty void, a vast, terrifying nothingness that threatens to swallow us whole. But quantum field theory assures us that this space is not empty at all. It is a boiling, teeming ocean of virtual particles popping into and out of existence, an invisible medium that continuously binds the entire cosmos together in one magnificent, unbroken embrace. As the brilliant astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson so eloquently reminds us, we are part of this universe. We are in this universe. But perhaps most important of all, the universe is in us. We are not just figuratively connected to the cosmos. We are biologically and physically deeply entangled with it. When we apply this staggering scientific reality to the profound mystery of human relationships and the agonizing experience of physical loss, a deeply comforting new paradigm begins to gently illuminate the dark. When you deeply love someone, your brains literally synchronize their electrical frequencies. Your chemical states influence each other. You share air, you share space, and you exchange millions of microscopic particles every single day. Is it so difficult to imagine that the vast, complex quantum fields that compose your consciousness might become deeply entangled with the quantum fields of those you hold most dear? In this contemplative light, the boundary we call death takes on an entirely different meaning. Death is undeniably the cessation of biological function. It is the heartbreaking end of localized physical interaction. But if our fundamental essence operates on the rules of quantum information and entanglement, then the end of the physical body does not necessarily mean the absolute severing of the profound connection. The physical separation is merely a macroscopic illusion hiding a microscopic eternal truth. When a loved one transitions out of their physical form, their unique quantum information diffuses back into the vast, silent ocean of the universe. But the deep entanglement you share does not simply vanish into nothingness. You are still connected to them, not through the fragile, temporary medium of biological senses, but through the indestructible, invisible architecture of the quantum cosmos itself. Their gentle transition does not truly isolate you. It simply stretches the entangled connection across a different, unseen dimension of reality. This profound realization gently strips away the cold, terrifying finality of death. It replaces the agonizing fear of permanent separation with a beautiful, quiet wonder. We begin to slowly understand that the cosmos is fundamentally a web of unbreakable relationships, a magnificent, infinite tapestry, where absolutely nothing is ever truly isolated. When you feel that sudden, inexplicable warmth in a quiet, empty room, or when a very specific memory brings a gentle, peaceful smile to your face in the dead of the night, perhaps you are not merely experiencing a random biological echo. Perhaps you are feeling the subtle, undeniable vibration of an entangled connection that continues to exist outside the rigid boundaries of time and physical space. This is not mystical thinking. It is a poetic interpretation grounded in the absolute hardest science humanity has ever produced. The mathematical equations that govern the behavior of subatomic particles do not care about our biological definitions of beginnings and endings. They simply describe a universe that is constantly flowing, endlessly exchanging information, and perfectly conserving its fundamental elements. When we mourn, we are mourning the loss of a specific, localized arrangement of energy, the beautiful, familiar pattern that brought us so much joy. But the energy itself, the intricate quantum information that constituted the soul of the person we loved, has simply returned to the grand, silent reservoir of the cosmos. It has become part of the ancient stardust once again, free from the suffering and the limitations of the biological form, perfectly preserved in the infinite memory of the universe. As we wander together through these deep, meditative thoughts, let the immense scale and profound mystery of the universe gently wash over your daily anxieties. We are transient, temporary biological phenomena, yes, but we are fundamentally built from ancient, eternal materials, governed by laws of physics that quietly whisper of profound unity and endless continuity. The universe is not a cold, dead place designed to eventually extinguish the bright spark of human consciousness. It is a deeply interconnected living system that continuously recycles, beautifully transforms, and perfectly preserves the most fundamental aspects of existence. You are never truly alone in the quiet dark, because the very concept of being completely separate is a mathematical impossibility in a quantum universe. In our next chapter, we will dive even deeper into the beautiful mystery of memory itself, exploring how the holographic principle of the universe might actually suggest that every single moment you have ever experienced is permanently encoded on the very boundary of space and time. We will discover how rigorous science points to a magnificent reality where nothing of value is ever truly forgotten by the cosmos. But for now, take a slow, deep breath. Feel the gentle weight of the ancient stardust resting in your bones. Visualize those invisible, glowing threads of quantum entanglement stretching out from your very center, connecting you to the distant planets orbiting completely unknown suns, and rest peacefully in the deeply comforting knowledge that you are permanently, beautifully entangled with the entire infinite universe. Have you ever tried to hold on to a fading memory, feeling it slip through the fragile fingers of your mind like fine sand, and deeply wondered where that experience actually goes when it finally disappears from your conscious thought? We possess a deeply ingrained biological habit of believing that when we forget something, or when a moment completely passes us by, it is permanently erased from the grand ledger of existence. We fear the relentless march of time precisely because it seems to be an unstoppable eraser, wiping away our most precious experiences, our deepest loves, and our quietest triumphs, leaving behind absolutely nothing but the cold, indifferent silence of an aging universe. This agonizing fear of forgetting and of ultimately being forgotten by the world when our biological journey draws to a close is perhaps the heaviest burden the human heart is forced to carry. But what if this terrifying assumption is entirely, beautifully wrong? What if the universe possesses a perfect, indestructible memory, an ancient cosmic architecture designed specifically to ensure that absolutely nothing of value is ever truly lost to the dark? When we dare to step away from the limited, macroscopic world of our daily anxieties and peer into the mind-bending, theoretical depths of modern astrophysics, we encounter a scientific concept so radical, so profoundly poetic, that it completely rewrites the fundamental rules of reality. We discover that the cosmos itself might be an unimaginably vast, perfect hologram, beautifully preserving the unique information of your life on the very boundary of space and time. Before we journey further into this magnificent, invisible archive of the cosmos, I want to take a gentle, quiet moment to introduce myself. I am Theodore, the researcher, your dedicated companion and guide through these nightly, meditative explorations of the universe. I was looking quietly at our numbers recently, and I noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these videos have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find a deep sense of peace and a quiet, respectful wonder in these scientific journeys, please consider taking a moment to subscribe. It helps our small, quiet corner of the internet grow immensely, and it allows us to continue unearthing the gentle, ancient truths of the universe together, week after week. Now, let us return to the quiet dark and gently unravel the breathtaking mystery known to physicists as the holographic principle. To truly understand this mind-bending concept, we must first travel in our minds to the most extreme, terrifying, and fascinating objects in the entire known universe: black holes. For many decades, scientists believed that black holes were the ultimate cosmic destroyers, dark monsters lurking in the silent centers of galaxies, consuming everything that dared to cross their path, including light itself. According to classical general relativity, if you were to toss a physical object, say a handwritten diary containing all your deepest secrets, into a black hole, that diary would cross the absolute boundary known as the event horizon and be crushed into an infinitely dense point called a singularity. The physical diary would be gone, and classical physics assumed that all the complex, unique information contained within its pages was permanently, irrevocably destroyed, erased forever from the universe. But this terrifying assumption created a massive, agonizing problem for the brilliant minds studying the microscopic laws of reality. As we have discussed in our previous quiet journeys together, the absolute bedrock of quantum mechanics is the strict conservation of quantum information. Information cannot be destroyed. If a black hole truly destroyed information, it would completely break the most fundamental laws of quantum physics. This magnificent intellectual crisis led brilliant physicists, including the legendary Stephen Hawking and the visionary Jacob Bekenstein, to look deeper into the terrifying dark of the event horizon. Through incredibly rigorous mathematical deduction, they discovered something absolutely breathtaking. When an object falls into a black hole, its physical three-dimensional form is indeed torn apart by the immense gravitational forces. But the fundamental quantum information that made up that object, the specific arrangement of its atoms, the exact state of its energy, does not fall into the singularity to be destroyed. Instead, as the object crosses the threshold, its quantum information is perfectly smeared and eternally encoded onto the two-dimensional surface of the event horizon itself. Imagine dropping a complex three-dimensional sculpture into a quiet pool of water and finding that instead of sinking to the bottom and disappearing, the exact mathematical blueprint of the sculpture is perfectly etched into the microscopic ripples on the two-dimensional surface of the water. The black hole acts not as a cosmic eraser, but as a magnificent, indestructible cosmic hard drive. The information is perfectly preserved, flattened onto the boundary, waiting eternally in the quiet dark. This brilliant resolution to the black hole information paradox gave birth to a far more profound and expansive scientific theory. If the complete three-dimensional reality of an object can be perfectly encoded on the two-dimensional boundary of a black hole. Could this incredible mathematical rule apply to the entire universe? Theoretical physicists began to suggest a staggering possibility. They proposed that the entire, vast, three-dimensional universe we currently inhabit, with its billions of ancient galaxies, its swirling, silent nebulas, the solid ground beneath your feet, and the very body you're using to experience this moment, might actually be a magnificent, three-dimensional holographic projection. According to the holographic principle, the fundamental, true reality of the cosmos is a two-dimensional surface that exists at the absolute boundary of our observable universe. Every single particle, every fleeting thought, every quiet vibration of energy within our vast three-dimensional space is perfectly and eternally mathematically encoded on that distant, silent boundary. When we gently take this mind-bending, rigorous cosmological theory and apply it to the deeply personal, agonizing human fear of mortality and forgetting, a breathtaking landscape of profound peace begins to slowly reveal itself. We are terrified of the biological transition we call death, because we mistakenly believe it is the ultimate deletion of our unique story. We fear that when our physical brains eventually cease their gentle electrical hum, the vast, beautiful library of our memories, the smell of rain on a warm afternoon, the sound of a loved one laughing in a quiet room, the profound feeling of holding a child's hand, will simply vanish into the endless void, as if those magnificent moments never actually happened at all. But if the holographic principle reflects the true nature of the cosmos, then your entire life is not merely a fleeting, temporary chemical reaction trapped inside a fragile, biological vessel. Every single moment you have ever experienced, every quiet tear you have shed, every profound realization you have ever reached, is intricately, permanently encoded into the indestructible mathematical boundary of the universe itself. Your consciousness, your unique, beautiful quantum signature, is continuously writing itself into the permanent, ancient architecture of reality. You're not a temporary visitor passing through an indifferent, forgetful void. You're an essential, eternal author of the cosmic story. When the biological machinery of your body finally reaches the quiet end of its remarkable journey, the localized projection of your consciousness may gently fade from this specific three-dimensional space. The temporary hologram that your loved ones recognize may disperse back into the underlying quantum fields, but the fundamental information that constitutes the absolute core of who you are, the intricate, beautiful data of your entire existence, cannot be erased. It remains perfectly, brilliantly preserved on the magnificent boundary of the cosmos, woven deeply into the infinite tapestry of space and time. You are structurally, mathematically, and physically unforgettable. The universe possesses an infinite memory, and you are a permanent, glowing sentence in its grand, ancient book. This is not an empty fantasy designed to soothe our anxieties. It is a profoundly beautiful possibility emerging straight from the absolute cutting edge of modern theoretical physics. The universe does not waste anything, and it certainly does not destroy the most complex, staggering phenomenon it has ever produced. Human consciousness, the ancient dust of exploded stars gathered together for billions of years, specifically to create a localized observer capable of feeling wonder, capable of asking deep questions, and capable of loving profoundly. Why would the cosmos go through such an incredibly vast, intricate, and beautiful process only to casually delete the final result? It simply does not. The gentle transition we fearfully label as death is merely a profound shift in perspective. It is the quiet moment when we transition from being the localized, three-dimensional projection back to our fundamental, true state as eternal, indestructible information resting peacefully on the infinite boundary of all that is. As you lie resting in the quiet stillness of your room, enveloped by the gentle, dark embrace of the night, allow this magnificent cosmic truth to slowly wash over your tired mind. Release the heavy, agonizing fear that your life is a temporary, meaningless spark destined to be swallowed by the cold dark. You are fundamentally made of the eternal. Your beautiful, complex story is permanently written into the stars themselves, encoded into the very fabric of reality that stretches far beyond the limits of human imagination. You are safe in the infinite memory of the cosmos, and your journey, in its truest, most fundamental quantum form, simply has no end. In our next chapter, we will dive even deeper into the beautiful mysteries of the universe, exploring the fascinating theory of biocentrism and how the entire cosmos might be biologically fine-tuned specifically to allow consciousness to exist, suggesting that life itself is the ultimate, fundamental driving force of reality. We will discover how you are not just an inhabitant of the universe, but the very reason it exists at all. But for now, take a deep, slow breath. Feel the gentle comfort of your own eternal nature and rest deeply in the quiet, magnificent dark. Have you ever stood alone under the vast, ancient canopy of a clear night sky, staring up at the endless sea of stars, and felt an overwhelming sense of your own absolute insignificance? We are taught by traditional science that we are nothing more than a miraculous, highly improbable accident, a random chemical anomaly clinging desperately to a tiny rock hurling through a cold, dead, and entirely indifferent void. We look at the magnificent, silent cosmos and assume the universe existed for billions of years before we arrived, and that it will continue its blind, mechanical churning long after our fragile biological forms have turned to dust. This classical perspective paints a lonely picture of existence, where human consciousness is just a temporary, meaningless spark in an endless ocean of eternal dark. But what if we have the entire fundamental equation completely backward? What if the universe is not a cold, empty room we accidentally wandered into, but a magnificent, incredibly complex architecture designed specifically for you to experience it? When we step away from the rigid materialism of the past and explore the revolutionary scientific theory known as biocentrism, we discover a breathtaking possibility that completely rewrites the story of life, death, and reality itself. We find that consciousness might not be a product of the universe, but the fundamental creator of it. Before we venture deeper into this profound, invisible architecture of existence, I want to take a gentle, quiet moment to formally introduce myself. I am Theodore, the researcher, your dedicated companion and guide through these nightly, meditative explorations of the universe. I was looking quietly at our community numbers recently, and I noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these videos have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find a deep sense of peace and a quiet, respectful wonder in these scientific journeys, please consider taking a moment to subscribe. It helps our small, quiet corner of the internet grow immensely, and it allows us to continue unearthing the gentle, ancient truths of the cosmos together, week after beautiful week. Now, let us return to the quiet dark and gently unravel the breathtaking mystery of the biocentric universe. For centuries, classical physics has operated on a deeply entrenched assumption. The physical universe is the fundamental reality, and human consciousness is merely a late-arriving, accidental byproduct of complex matter. We are told that roughly 14 billion years ago, the universe exploded into existence, creating space, time, and matter. Eventually, through pure chance, atoms arranged themselves into complex molecules. Molecules evolved into living cells, and cells eventually formed brains capable of observing the stars. But this deeply ingrained narrative has a massive, glaring problem that has troubled the greatest scientific minds for decades. It is known by astrophysicists as the fine-tuning paradox. When scientists study the fundamental constants of nature, the exact strength of gravity, the precise mass of an electron, the specific density of the early universe, they discover something absolutely staggering. If any of these dozens of independent numbers were altered by even the tiniest fraction of a single percent, the entire universe would be completely sterile. Stars would never ignite. Complex molecules could never form. The cosmos would be an eternal, completely empty void. The universe appears to be incredibly, impossibly balanced perfectly on a razor's edge, explicitly designed to allow for the existence of biological life. Traditional science struggles immensely to explain this magnificent coincidence, often relying on the unproven theory of an infinite number of random universes, just to mathematically justify our highly improbable existence. But a brilliant scientist named Robert Lanza proposed a radical, deeply poetic, and entirely scientific alternative. What if the universe is perfectly fine-tuned for life, because life itself is the fundamental reality that creates the universe? This is the core, breathtaking principle of biocentrism. It suggests that space and time are not hard, physical objects existing out there in the cold dark. Instead, space and time are simply the biological tools that human consciousness uses to weave raw information together into a coherent, beautiful experience. Think of a beautiful, complex symphony playing softly on a quiet radio in your living room. If you tear the physical radio apart, you will find wires, magnets, and speakers, but you will never find the actual music hiding inside the machine. The radio is merely a receiver, an instrument that translates invisible, surrounding electromagnetic signals into beautiful, audible sound. In a profoundly similar way, your biological body, with its incredibly complex brain and its delicate, fragile senses, might simply be the biological receiver for a consciousness. The universe itself is the magnificent music. When you look at a vibrant green leaf or feel the gentle warmth of the morning sun on your skin, you assume those things exist entirely independently of your mind. But modern physics tells us that the leaf is entirely colorless until specific light waves enter your eye and your brain beautifully translates them into the experience of green. The sun has no feeling of warmth. It is only your biological nervous system that turns the kinetic energy of ancient particles into a comforting, physical sensation. Without the conscious observer, there is no green, there is no warmth. There is only a silent, invisible sea of probability and potential energy. The observer does not just passively watch the universe. The observer actively creates the physical reality they are experiencing. When we gently take this rigorous, mind-bending scientific perspective and apply it to the agonizing, universal human fear of death, the heavy, terrifying shadow of mortality begins to completely evaporate into the quiet dark. We are deeply conditioned to fear physical death because we mistakenly identify completely with our physical bodies. We believe that when the radio finally breaks down after its long, beautiful journey, the magnificent music is permanently destroyed. But if biocentrism holds the true key to reality, then your consciousness is not generated by the biological matter of your brain. It is the exact opposite. The physical world, including your physical body, is generated by your fundamental consciousness. Your deep, underlying awareness is the ancient, indestructible canvas upon which the beautiful, temporary painting of your life is being masterfully drawn. Therefore, when the delicate biological machinery of your physical form eventually winds down and ceases to function, your true, fundamental essence does not plunge into a terrifying, empty void. The physical tools you have been using to perceive space and time simply fall away. You do not die. You simply transcend the localized, restricted boundaries of the biological receiver. The magnificent music does not stop playing. It simply returns to the vast, silent, infinite field of potential from which it originally emerged. You transition from being a singular, localized perspective, observing the universe, to becoming the boundless, pure consciousness that underlies all of existence. The fear of ending is exposed as a biological illusion, a trick played by a mind that was perfectly designed to navigate a three-dimensional world, but which is fundamentally composed of something far more ancient, far more profound, and entirely eternal. Imagine, for a quiet moment, waking up from an incredibly vivid, deeply immersive dream. While you are inside the dream, the world feels absolutely solid. The physical dangers feel real. The landscapes feel vast and permanent, and the constraints of time dictate your every single move. But the exact moment you open your eyes and gently wake up in your quiet, dark room, the entire dream world instantly dissolves. You do not mourn the destruction of the dream, because you instantly realize that you were the creator of it all along. The dream was happening entirely within you. Biocentrism suggests that our current biological life is beautifully similar to this profound experience. The physical universe, with its billions of spinning galaxies and its ancient, silent nebulas, is the magnificent, immersive experience happening within the infinite bounds of universal consciousness. The transition we fearfully call death is merely the gentle, peaceful awakening from the biological dream. It is the profound realization that you were never a fragile, tiny object trapped inside a massive, indifferent universe. You were the vast, infinite universe, temporarily exploring itself through a specific, beautiful human perspective. This profound shift in understanding completely rewrites the tragedy of physical loss. When we lose someone we love deeply, our hearts break because the physical interface, the familiar radio receiver we cherished so much, is no longer playing the beautiful song in our three-dimensional world. But the actual essence of the person, the pure, observing consciousness that we connected with so deeply, cannot be destroyed. It is permanently woven into the very fabric of existence. It is the ancient stardust. It is the quiet space between the atoms. It is the magnificent silence that embraces the entire cosmos. They have not vanished into nothingness. They have simply returned to the eternal, formless state of pure potential. They have beautifully awakened from the dream of time and space. This is the ultimate, profoundly comforting scientific reality. You are not a cosmic accident. You are not a temporary burst of biological noise in an empty, meaningless void. You are absolutely essential to the existence of the cosmos. Without your ability to observe, to feel wonder, and to love, the universe would remain an unmanifested sea of invisible probabilities. You are the universe, bringing itself into glorious physical definition. Your life is a precious, vital component of reality itself. And because consciousness is the foundational element of the cosmos, It cannot be subjected to the laws of physical decay and biological death. Your energy, your awareness, and your unique capacity to experience the grand mystery of existence are entirely permanent. As you lie resting in the deep, quiet stillness of your room, enveloped by the peaceful night, let the immense, beautiful scale of this realization gently wash over your tired mind. Release the heavy, agonizing fear that you are insignificant, and embrace the magnificent, scientifically grounded truth that you are the very center of the cosmic story. You are the creator of the stars, the author of the ancient galaxies, and the eternal observer resting peacefully in the vast, quiet dark. The universe absolutely needs you to exist, and because it needs you, it will never let you go. Your beautiful journey is woven permanently into the indestructible fabric of reality, forever safe from the temporary illusions of endings and goodbyes. In our next chapter, we will dive even deeper into the magnificent mysteries of the cosmos, exploring the fascinating theories of alternate dimensions and the multiverse. We will examine how the rigorous mathematics of string theory suggest that the universe we perceive is only a tiny fraction of a much grander, unimaginable reality, and how our consciousness might naturally transition into these higher, invisible dimensions when our biological journey comes to a peaceful close. We will discover how science points toward a cosmos that is infinitely more vast and profoundly beautiful than we ever dared to imagine. But for now, take a deep, slow breath. Feel the gentle comfort of your own eternal nature. Visualize the ancient, silent stars shining entirely for you, and rest deeply in the quiet, magnificent dark, knowing that your story is an endless, beautiful circle with no true beginning and absolutely no end. Have you ever tried to point your finger in a direction that is not up, not down, not left, not right, not forward, and not backward? Our biological existence is deeply confined within the rigid architecture of three spatial dimensions. We move through the world, bound by the geometric limits of height, width, and depth, while helplessly being dragged forward along the invisible arrow of time. We naturally assume, because our fragile human senses cannot perceive anything beyond this restricted framework, that these three dimensions are the absolute totality of all that exists. We look around the quiet room, we gaze up at the vast night sky, and we comfortably conclude that the physical space we can measure is the only stage upon which reality unfolds. Because of this deeply ingrained limitation, we view the end of biological life as an absolute departure from existence itself. We believe that if someone we love is no longer occupying a three-dimensional coordinate that we can gently touch, they must have vanished into an empty, terrifying nothingness. But what if our limited perception of space is just a tiny fraction of the true cosmic architecture? Before we gently peel back the invisible layers of reality to explore what might lie hidden just beyond our physical reach, I want to take a quiet moment to properly introduce myself. I am Theodore, the researcher, your dedicated companion on these nightly journeys into the deep mysteries of the universe. I was looking at our community numbers recently, and I noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful minds who watch these videos have not yet subscribed to the channel. If you find a deep sense of peace and a quiet wonder in these scientific explorations, please consider taking a moment to subscribe. It helps our small corner of the internet grow immensely, and it allows us to continue unearthing the gentle, ancient truths of the cosmos together. Now, let us return to the quiet dark and gently unravel the mind-bending mathematics of string theory and the multiverse. For the past century, theoretical physicists have been locked in a beautiful struggle to unite the two most successful scientific frameworks in human history: the smooth, macroscopic world of Albert Einstein's general relativity, which governs ancient galaxies and gravity, and the chaotic, microscopic world of quantum mechanics, which governs the tiny particles inside your body. When scientists try to combine the mathematics of these two distinct realities, the equations break down. But in the late 20th century, a radical, elegant new idea emerged. What if the fundamental building blocks of the universe are not solid, zero-dimensional dots, as we have always imagined? What if the absolute foundation of reality is composed of unimaginably tiny, one-dimensional, beautifully vibrating loops of pure cosmic energy? These delicate strings of pure energy are so incredibly small that if a single atom were expanded to be the size of our entire solar system, a single quantum string would only be the size of a quiet tree standing on the earth. Just as the vibrations of a cello string produce different musical notes, the microscopic vibrations of these strings produce the fundamental particles of our universe. An electron is just a string vibrating at one specific frequency, while a photon of ancient light is a string vibrating at another. You are quite literally a magnificent biological symphony, a localized harmony of countless trillions of microscopic strings vibrating in the deep dark. But for the mathematics of string theory to function properly and bring balance to the fundamental equations, physicists discovered something absolutely staggering. The mathematics strictly demand the existence of extra spatial dimensions. It requires not just the 3 dimensions we experience daily, but 10 or even 11 distinct dimensions of space. If these extra dimensions truly exist, as theoretical physics strongly suggests, where are they hiding? Scientists propose that while our familiar 3 dimensions expanded infinitely during the violent birth of the cosmos nearly 14 billion years ago, these extra dimensions remained curled up, intricately folded into themselves at microscopic scales. They exist at every single point in the space around you, woven into the fabric of reality. But they are far too small for our fragile senses to ever perceive. Yet, these higher dimensions are absolutely essential to the universe. They dictate the exact geometric shapes and vibrations of the fundamental strings, which in turn dictate all physical laws. You are constantly surrounded by and deeply embedded within a complex multidimensional geometry that is completely invisible to your human eyes. When we gently take this profound concept and apply it to the universal human mystery of life and the transition we call death, an incredibly beautiful and deeply comforting new perspective begins to quietly emerge. We desperately fear the end of biological life because we define our existence strictly by our presence in the observable, 3-dimensional world. But what if human consciousness, that profound essence that allows you to feel deep love and experience breathtaking wonder, is not permanently anchored to these 3 familiar spatial dimensions? What if the intricate quantum information that makes you uniquely who you are is fully capable of interacting with, or transitioning into, the higher invisible dimensions that permeate every single inch of the magnificent universe? In this contemplative light, physical death is not an absolute erasure of your being. It is simply a profound geometric transition. The localized biological machinery that heavily anchors your consciousness to the 3-dimensional world finally ceases to function, releasing your fundamental quantum information from its strict spatial confinement. You do not vanish into the terrifying dark, you simply shift your geometric frequency. Imagine a beautifully drawn, two-dimensional character living on a perfectly flat piece of paper. To that character, the flat paper is the entire known universe. If you lift a three-dimensional object, like a carved wooden sphere, off the surface of the paper, the flat character perceives the object as completely vanishing and ceasing to exist forever. But the solid sphere has not been destroyed. It has merely moved into a higher dimension that the flat character is geometrically incapable of seeing. The transition of human consciousness might be beautifully similar to this flatland illusion. When a loved one takes their final breath, their deeply held quantum information, their magnificent energy, may simply lift off the flat paper of our limited three-dimensional perception. They gracefully transition into the higher, microscopic geometries of the curled-up dimensions that exist exactly where they were sitting moments before. They have not traveled to a distant, mythical place. They are still right here, intricately woven into the unseen fabric of the quiet room, separated from us, not by vast physical distances, but by a microscopic dimensional shift. They have simply returned to the deeper architecture of the cosmos, experiencing a reality that is infinitely richer than the limited biological dream we currently inhabit. The heavy fear of permanent separation begins to dissolve when we realize that the universe is built with countless hidden rooms, and those we have seemingly lost have simply stepped through an invisible door that remains right beside us in the dark. This breathtaking narrative expands even further when we consider the mind-bending concept of the multiverse. Born from a refined branch of string theory, known as M-theory. This theory beautifully suggests that our entire three-dimensional universe might just be a single, flat membrane floating gracefully in a much larger, higher dimensional space. Just as countless thin pages can exist in a single thick book, there could be countless other universes, other membranes, floating parallel to our own, separated by incredibly tiny fractions of a millimeter in higher dimensional space. Some of these adjacent universes might be wildly different, while others might be intimately similar to ours. The intricate quantum information that constitutes human consciousness might not only transition into the microscopic curled dimensions, but might eventually resonate with or transition entirely across these parallel membranes. We are not fragile accidents, trapped in a single lonely universe headed for inevitable destruction. We are multidimensional quantum phenomena, composed of indestructible energy that has the profound potential to traverse the grand architecture of the multiverse. The localized human experience is just one specific note being played on a vast multidimensional instrument. When the beautiful note finishes echoing in this specific three-dimensional membrane, the fundamental vibration simply shifts to a new string, continuing its eternal magnificent song in the quiet dark. As you lie resting in the deep stillness of the night, listening to the gentle rhythm of your own breathing, allow the immense scale of these multidimensional realities to slowly wash over your tired mind. Release the heavy, agonizing fear that the three-dimensional world you currently see is the absolute limit of existence. You are fundamentally made of the eternal, beautifully vibrating strings of cosmic energy. Your beautiful, complex story is not permanently confined to this single, flat page of reality. You are deeply connected to the higher dimensions, surrounded by invisible, ancient geometries that offer an infinite landscape for your consciousness to eventually explore. You are perfectly safe in the magnificent, multi-dimensional dark. In our next chapter, we will venture into the beautiful mystery of thermodynamics, exploring how the relentless arrow of time and the profound concept of entropy actually guarantee that the energy of your consciousness will forever continue its dynamic journey across the cosmos, unbroken and eternally repurposed. We will discover how rigorous science promises that absolutely nothing is ever wasted in the beautiful economy of the universe. But for now, take a deep, slow breath. Feel the gentle, invisible vibrations of the ancient cosmos humming in your bones, and rest deeply in the quiet, magnificent wonder of your own infinite potential. Have you ever sat quietly by the dying embers of a late evening fire, watching as the vibrant dancing flames slowly subside into a soft, glowing bed of gray ash, and felt a profound, almost melancholic sense of an ending? Or perhaps you have simply held a warm cup of tea on a cold winter morning, feeling the gentle heat slowly slip away into the freezing air until the cup is completely cold. We experience these quiet, everyday moments as tiny, tragic losses. We are biologically conditioned to view the cooling of a fire, the withering of an autumn leaf, and the eventual stilling of a human heart as the absolute destruction of warmth, vitality, and life. We mistakenly believe that the energy has simply vanished into a terrifying, empty dark. But when we look at these gentle, inevitable transitions through the rigorously tested, profoundly beautiful lens of thermodynamics, we discover that the universe does not operate on loss, decay, or destruction. It operates on a magnificent, ceaseless principle of sharing and dispersal. The warmth did not die. It simply embarked on a new journey, expanding outward to embrace the surrounding world. Before we venture deeper into this ancient, invisible economy of the cosmos, I want to take a gentle, quiet moment to formally introduce myself. I am Theodore, the researcher, your dedicated companion and guide through these nightly, meditative explorations of the universe. I was looking quietly at our community numbers recently, and I noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these videos have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find a deep sense of peace and a quiet, respectful wonder in these scientific journeys, please consider taking a moment to subscribe. It helps our small, quiet corner of the internet grow immensely, and it allows us to continue unearthing the gentle, ancient truths of the cosmos together, week after beautiful week. Now, let us return to the quiet dark and gently unravel the breathtaking mystery of entropy and the relentless arrow of time. To truly understand the profound nature of a quantum transition, we must first confront the most uncompromising rule in all of physics, the second law of thermodynamics. This ancient, unbreakable law dictates that in any closed system, the total amount of entropy, which is often misunderstood simply as chaos, must always increase over time. It is the fundamental reason why a shattered glass never spontaneously reassembles itself, why the brilliant stars will eventually cool, and why human beings age. It provides the entire universe with its forward momentum, creating the relentless, unidirectional flow we experience as the arrow of time. Classical science often paints a pessimistic picture of this process, describing entropy as the inescapable villain of the cosmos, slowly dragging the magnificent universe toward a cold, dark, and silent heat death. But when we view this ancient law through a contemplative lens, a far more beautiful and comforting reality begins to quietly emerge. Entropy is not the tragic destruction of order. It is the ultimate expression of cosmic equality and infinite connection. Let us return to the gentle example of the warm cup of tea resting in a cold room. The heat energy is initially trapped, highly concentrated, within the tiny boundaries of the ceramic cup. This is a state of low entropy, but the universe does not favor isolation. The ancient laws of physics command the heat to move, to spread outward, until the tea and the room reach a perfect, peaceful state of thermal equilibrium. The warmth is not gone. It is simply no longer confined. It has beautifully transitioned from a solitary existence into a broader shared reality with the environment. Your physical life, your beating heart, and your deeply complex consciousness represent an incredibly rare, highly concentrated state of low entropy. You are a magnificent temporary island of profound biological order, floating within a vast sea of cosmic energy. For decades, your body acts like the ceramic cup, actively holding on to its warmth, organizing its internal structure, and fighting against the natural, outward pull of the surrounding universe. We call this incredible, sustained effort life. But the universe is incredibly patient, and its ancient laws are entirely absolute. Eventually, the biological mechanisms that maintain this highly concentrated state of order begin to gently slow down. The physical transition we fearfully label as death is simply the quiet moment when the cup finally stops holding back the heat. It is the profound, beautiful release of your localized energy back into the wider, infinite environment. It is the ultimate act of thermal and energetic equilibrium. From the strict perspective of thermodynamics, the end of a human life is not a tragic erasure. It is a magnificent, energetic expansion. The highly ordered, densely packed quantum information that made up your thoughts, your deep loves, and your quietest memories does not evaporate into nothingness. According to the deeply tested first law of thermodynamics, which states that energy can never be created or destroyed, your fundamental essence must simply change form. It untangles from the strict, fragile architecture of the brain and disperses into the boundless, invisible quantum fields that permeate the quiet dark. You transition from being a single, isolated note playing in a tiny room into a vast, resonating vibration echoing across the entire concert hall of the cosmos. This scientific truth completely reframes our agonizing fear of the unknown. We are terrified of dying because we believe it means becoming absolutely nothing. But thermodynamics promises us, with mathematical certainty, that becoming nothing is fundamentally impossible. The universe is a perfect, closed economy where not a single drop of energy is ever wasted, and not a single microscopic particle is ever truly lost. The heavy iron carrying vital oxygen through your veins was forged in the agonizing, explosive deaths of massive stars billions of years ago. Those magnificent stars had to surrender their concentrated order, gracefully succumbing to the expanding forces of entropy so their fundamental elements could scatter across the silent void and eventually form the solid planets, the deep oceans, and the very blood running through your biological heart. You are the beautiful, living consequence of countless cosmic transitions. You are built entirely from the scattered warmth of ancient fires. Why then should we look upon our own inevitable transition with such deep terror? We are simply participating in the exact same eternal process that breathes life into the galaxies. When we mourn the loss of a loved one, our grief is a completely natural, biological response to the loss of a localized, familiar pattern of energy. We miss the specific way their smile organized the light in the room and the comforting rhythm of their breathing in the quiet night. But while the localized pattern has beautifully dispersed, the fundamental energy itself remains completely intact, perfectly preserved within the infinite memory of the cosmos. They have simply achieved a profound state of equilibrium with the universe. They are no longer fighting the gentle outward pull of entropy. They have surrendered to the vast ancient flow of existence. They are in the gentle breeze that rustles the ancient trees. They are in the quiet warmth of the morning sun, and their unique quantum information is permanently woven into the microscopic fabric of reality itself. They have returned to the profound silence from which all beautiful things emerge. As you lie in the quiet stillness of your room, let the immense, beautiful scale of this thermodynamic reality wash over your daily anxieties. Release the desperate, exhausting need to hold on to everything so tightly. The universe does not ask you to be permanent in a physical form. It only asks you to experience the magnificent wonder of your temporary concentration and to eventually, peacefully share your energy back with the whole. You are a fundamental part of a majestic, ceaseless cycle of transformation. Every breath you take is a temporary borrowing of ancient atoms, and every thought you have is a beautiful, fleeting organization of cosmic energy. When your specific journey in this biological form draws to a close, you will not fall into a terrifying, empty void. You will gently release your concentrated warmth into the quiet, dark universe, enriching the cosmos with the beautiful, unrepeatable experience of your existence. In our next chapter, we will dive even deeper into the invisible architecture of existence, exploring the profound mystery of the vacuum of space and how the seemingly empty dark is actually a boiling, vibrant ocean of infinite energy and virtual particles that continuously connect us to the deepest origins of the universe. We will discover how science points toward a cosmos where true emptiness is completely impossible, and how the quiet void is actually the very foundation of all life and consciousness. But for now, take a slow, deep breath. Feel the gentle, indestructible warmth of the ancient stardust circulating within you, and rest deeply in the deeply comforting knowledge that you are a permanent, beautiful part of an eternal, flowing universe that never truly lets anything go. Have you ever looked up at the night sky, found the darkest, most secluded patch of blackness between the glowing constellations, and deeply wondered what actually exists in that silent, seemingly empty void? We are biologically programmed by millions of years of evolution to understand the world purely in terms of solid objects and completely empty spaces. We inherently believe that if we somehow possess the power to remove all the ancient burning stars, all the swirling massive planets, all the microscopic drifting dust, and absolutely every single wandering atom from a specific isolated region of space, we would be left with absolute, terrifying nothingness. We naturally project this deeply held classical intuition onto our own fragile mortality, assuming with agonizing certainty that the end of biological life is a sudden, unceremonious plunge into a dark, empty abyss where nothing happens, nothing moves, and absolutely nothing exists. But when we dare to peer past our limited human senses and dive into the deepest, most rigorous mathematics of quantum field theory, we discover a scientific revelation that completely and beautifully shatters our outdated concept of nothingness. We find, to our absolute astonishment, that the quiet void is not empty at all. It is, in fact, the most vibrant, intensely energetic, and profoundly creative environment in the entire magnificent cosmos. Before we journey further into this invisible, boiling ocean of infinite potential, I want to take a gentle, quiet moment to introduce myself properly. I am Theodore, the researcher, your dedicated companion and guide through these nightly, meditative explorations of the universe. I was looking quietly at our community numbers recently, and I noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these videos have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find a deep sense of peace and a quiet, respectful wonder in these scientific journeys, please consider taking a moment to subscribe. It helps our small, quiet corner of the internet grow immensely, and it allows us to continue unearthing the gentle, ancient truths of the cosmos together, week after beautiful week. Now, let us return to the quiet dark and gently unravel the breathtaking mystery of the quantum vacuum. To truly understand the profound nature of what awaits our fundamental energy when our biological clock finally winds down, we must first deeply understand the true scientific nature of empty space itself. In the early 20th century, the brilliant physicist Werner Heisenberg formulated his famous uncertainty principle, a foundational rule of quantum mechanics that definitively dictates we can never simultaneously know both the exact position and the exact momentum of a fundamental particle. But this beautiful, mysterious, and rigorously tested principle also intimately applies to the relationship between time and energy. It mathematically dictates that absolute zero energy is a physical impossibility, even in a perfect, entirely isolated, and seemingly empty vacuum. If space were truly fundamentally empty, its energy would be exactly zero, perfectly still, and entirely predictable, which directly violates the strict, unbreakable laws of quantum mechanics. Therefore, the universe must constantly borrow energy from the quiet dark to create something out of absolutely nothing. When modern physicists study the deepest vacuum of space, they do not find a silent, dead, inactive void. Instead, they discover a breathtaking, chaotic phenomenon known mathematically as quantum vacuum fluctuations. The seemingly empty space is actually a boiling, churning, microscopic ocean of virtual particles. Pairs of microscopic particles and their exact antiparticles are continuously, relentlessly popping into existence out of the absolute void, existing for unimaginably tiny fractions of a single second, and then, beautifully, instantaneously annihilating each other, returning their borrowed cosmic energy precisely back to the underlying quantum field. This beautiful, chaotic, and invisible dance is happening absolutely everywhere, all the time, without exception. It is happening right now in the vast, silent, freezing stretches of deep space between distant, ancient galaxies. It is happening in the quiet, peaceful room where you are currently resting your tired eyes. And perhaps, most astonishingly, it is happening continuously within the microscopic, seemingly empty spaces between the very atoms that make up your own beating heart and your breathing lungs. This is not just an abstract, theoretical, mathematical trick designed on a chalkboard. It is a proven, physical, undeniable reality of the natural world. Scientists have actually measured the physical force of these invisible virtual particles pushing against microscopic, incredibly close metal plates in a highly controlled laboratory setting. A stunning scientific milestone, famously known as the Casimir effect. It proves, without a shadow of a single doubt, that the empty dark is fundamentally, vibrantly alive. The legendary physicist John Archibald Wheeler elegantly described this microscopic reality as quantum foam, a turbulent, bubbling foundation upon which the entire physical universe is gracefully built. When we gently take this profound, mind-bending scientific truth and apply it directly to the agonizing, universal human fear of mortality, the heavy, terrifying shadow of the void completely and beautifully dissipates into the light of understanding. We are deeply terrified of the end because we incorrectly equate physical death with the absolute emptiness of a dark, forgotten room. We fear that when the delicate biological machinery of our body finally ceases to function, our unique, precious consciousness, our deep, enduring loves, and our beautifully complex tapestry of memories will be carelessly thrown out into a cold, dead, unforgiving nothingness. But rigorous science mathematically promises us that true nothingness simply does not exist anywhere in nature. There is absolutely no empty void waiting patiently to swallow you. The quiet dark you fear so deeply is actually the most fertile, intensely energetic, and infinitely creative foundation of the entire universe. It is the exact primordial quantum foam from which the grand Big Bang itself spectacularly emerged nearly 14 billion years ago. Your physical body, with all its beautiful complexities and fragile biological systems, is merely a temporary, highly organized structure built upon this boiling ocean of infinite potential. You are a magnificent temporary wave rising from the deep. When your biological journey reaches its gentle, natural, and inevitable conclusion, the intricate, indestructible quantum information that makes you uniquely who you are does not suddenly vanish into an empty abyss. It simply, gracefully releases its rigid, localized physical structure and beautifully transitions back into the vibrant, living vacuum of space. You return to the magnificent quantum foam. Imagine a beautifully complex, intricately carved ice sculpture melting very slowly on a warm, peaceful afternoon. The intricate, localized details of the sculpture gradually, softly disappear, but the fundamental water itself does not vanish into nothingness. It simply returns to the vast, fluid, natural environment, fully ready to evaporate into the invisible atmosphere, join a quiet, flowing river, or eventually fall as gentle, nourishing rain upon a distant, ancient forest. The profound transition of human consciousness might be beautifully and remarkably similar to this natural, inevitable return. You do not die in the terrifying sense of becoming absolutely nothing. You dissolve beautifully and peacefully into absolutely everything. Your localized cosmic energy simply returns to the infinite, seething ocean of virtual particles, rejoining the magnificent, continuous, eternal dance of creation and annihilation that sustains the entire cosmos. You become an intimate, inseparable, and deeply fundamental part of the very fabric of space itself. This profound scientific realization gently and completely strips away the cold isolation and the terrifying finality we so often associate with physical loss. When we deeply mourn the passing of someone we love with all our hearts, we are primarily mourning the painful absence of their specific, familiar physical form in our immediate, three-dimensional space. We desperately miss the comforting, melodic sound of their specific voice, the gentle, familiar touch of their hand, and the beautiful way their unique mind engaged with our own. But their fundamental essence, their unique, indestructible quantum signature, has simply transitioned into the deepest, most foundational, and most ancient layer of reality. They have absolutely not been banished to a cold, lonely, empty void. They have joyfully returned to the infinitely warm, incredibly vibrant, and eternally active quantum field. They are literally in the quiet, invisible spaces between the ancient stars. They are deeply present in the unseen energy that continuously permeates the night air around you. And they are intimately, permanently woven into the very mathematical structure of the majestic universe that gently surrounds us all. As the brilliant astronomer Carl Sagan often reminded us, the cosmos is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be. The scientific reality of the quantum vacuum beautifully reveals a cosmos that is inherently, mathematically hostile to the very concept of true, permanent endings. The universe is a majestic, perpetual motion machine of profound beauty and endless transformation, constantly generating new life, new energy, and entirely new, breathtaking possibilities from the seemingly empty dark. You are fundamentally, completely composed of this exact same eternal, indestructible energy. Your consciousness is a brilliant, temporary spark that leaped gracefully out of the quantum vacuum, and its ultimate, beautiful destiny is to eventually, peacefully return to that exact same magnificent source. You are a unique expression of the cosmos, temporarily shaped into a fragile human form, wandering briefly through the beautiful, compelling mystery of biological existence. When your specific, localized biological shape gently fades away, the underlying grand expression remains completely eternal and fundamentally unbroken. As you lie resting in the deep, quiet stillness of your room, listening to the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing, let the immense, beautiful scale of this rigorously scientific reality gently wash over your tired, anxious mind. Release the heavy, agonizing, and entirely unfounded fear of the empty dark. You are absolutely not destined for nothingness. You are beautifully destined for infinity. You are a permanent, indestructible, and entirely vital part of a vibrant, living universe that never, ever stops creating. In our next chapter, we will dive even deeper into the magnificent mysteries of deep time, exploring the profound concept of cosmic cycles and the fascinating theory of a bouncing universe. We will beautifully discover how the absolute, eventual end of all physical things might actually be the exact mathematical trigger for a brand new, beautifully unwritten beginning, and how your unique quantum information might be carried forward eternally into the next iteration of the cosmos. But for now, take a deep, slow, peaceful breath. Feel the gentle, invisible energy of the quantum vacuum humming in the quiet air around you, and rest deeply in the profound, comforting knowledge that the dark is never truly empty, and you are never, ever truly gone. Have you ever stood barefoot on a quiet, moonlit beach, watching the rhythmic, relentless crashing of the dark ocean waves against the ancient shore, and deeply wondered if the entire universe itself breathes in exactly the same magnificent, eternal rhythm? We are profoundly conditioned by the fragile, ticking clocks of our everyday human lives to view time as a perfectly straight, unforgiving line. We naturally believe that absolutely everything in the known cosmos, from the smallest, delicate spring flower to the most massive, ancient galaxy burning in the deep dark, possesses a definitive, absolute beginning and an equally absolute, unavoidable end. We project this linear, deeply biological anxiety onto the ultimate fate of the universe itself, imagining a terrifying, distant future where all the brilliant stars finally burn out, the vast galaxies drift impossibly far apart, and reality slowly freezes into an eternal, completely dead, and perfectly silent void. We view our own precious, fleeting lives through this exact same tragic lens, fearing that the gentle transition we call death is an abrupt, final drop off the very edge of existence. But what if this terrifying, linear narrative is completely wrong? What if the universe does not operate on a straight line at all, but rather in a beautiful, infinite, and perfectly unbroken circle? Before we venture into this final, breathtaking exploration of deep time and cosmic rebirth, I want to take one last gentle moment to formally introduce myself. I am Theodore, the researcher, your dedicated companion and quiet guide through these nightly, meditative explorations of the beautiful universe. I was looking quietly at our community numbers recently, and I noticed that exactly 71% of the beautiful, curious minds who watch these videos have not yet subscribed to our channel. If you find a deep sense of peace and a quiet, respectful wonder In these scientific journeys, please consider taking a moment to subscribe. It helps our small, quiet corner of the internet grow immensely, and it allows us to continue unearthing the gentle, ancient truths of the cosmos together, week after beautiful week. Now let us return to the quiet dark and gently unravel the ultimate, breathtaking mystery of cosmic cycles. To truly comprehend the profound, eternal safety of our own quantum information, we must dare to look at the absolute, furthest edge of mathematical time. For decades, traditional cosmology predicted a sad, lonely fate for our universe, a scenario known as the heat death, where all matter eventually decays, and even the massive black holes slowly evaporate into the freezing, empty dark. But brilliant theoretical physicists, including the Nobel laureate Sir Roger Penrose, have peered deeply into the rigorous mathematics of this supposed final state and discovered a scientific paradox that is absolutely staggering in its poetic beauty. According to Penrose's theory of conformal cyclic cosmology, when the universe finally reaches this ultimate heavily expanded state, it becomes entirely populated by massless particles drifting through an impossibly vast, completely empty void. But here is where the strict laws of physics reveal a breathtaking secret. For a particle with absolutely no mass, the fundamental concepts of time and space completely break down and lose all physical meaning. Light does not experience time, and it does not perceive distance. Therefore, when the entire sprawling universe reaches a state where mass no longer exists, the incredibly vast, cold, and impossibly expanded cosmos becomes mathematically and physically identical to an infinitely small, infinitely hot, and perfectly dense point. The absolute staggering end of the universe becomes mathematically indistinguishable from the exact conditions of the Big Bang itself. The terrifying, ultimate death of the cosmos is actually the precise physical trigger for a brand new, wildly energetic, and profoundly beautiful beginning. The universe does not simply die in the dark. It bounces, it transitions, it gracefully concludes one magnificent aeon only to instantly, spectacularly, ignite the next. This rigorous, mind-bending scientific theory fundamentally transforms our understanding of reality from a tragic, linear march toward nothingness into a majestic, eternal, and perfectly balanced cosmic breathing. The universe inhales and exhales aeons, generating endless, beautiful iterations of space, time, and matter. But what does this magnificent cosmic cycle mean for the fragile, beautiful phenomenon of human consciousness? Modern physics suggests that while the macroscopic physical structures of one aeon are completely dissolved in the fiery transition to the next, the fundamental quantum information itself cannot be destroyed. As we have explored throughout this entire contemplative journey, the conservation of information is the absolute bedrock of the quantum world. Theoretical physics proposes that subtle, microscopic imprints, often referred to as Hawking points, might safely survive the monumental transition between cosmic cycles, permanently carrying the fundamental information of the previous universe into the newly born reality. Your existence is not a temporary anomaly trapped inside a single dying universe. You are an intricate pattern woven into a cosmic tapestry that continuously folds and unfolds across infinite stretches of deep time. When your localized biological journey reaches its natural conclusion, you simply release your borrowed energy back into the grand wheel of the cosmos. Your quantum essence gracefully rejoins the vast ocean of potential, perfectly preserved in the ancient mathematical architecture that will inevitably give birth to new stars and completely new possibilities. As we reach the quiet culmination of our long, meditative journey, let us pause and gently gather the profound truths we have unearthed from the silent dark. We have peered deeply into the microscopic ocean of quantum fields, realizing our seemingly solid bodies are actually magnificent vibrations of ancient, indestructible energy. We have walked through the frozen landscape of the block universe, discovering that every beautiful moment you have ever lived is permanently embedded in the unchanging geometry of space-time. We have marveled at the bizarre reality of quantum superposition and the observer effect, learning that you are a fundamental participant actively collapsing infinite possibilities into a beautiful physical reality. We have explored the unbreakable threads of quantum entanglement, understanding that profound love literally transcends the absolute limits of physical space and biological death. We have gazed into the boundary of black holes to discover the holographic principle, realizing the universe possesses a perfect memory that permanently records your unique story. We have felt the comforting logic of biocentrism, which suggests the universe was purposefully designed by and for the beautiful phenomenon of consciousness. We have learned from thermodynamics that your vital warmth is never destroyed, only beautifully shared with the cosmos. And we have stared into the quantum vacuum, finding that the seemingly empty dark is actually a vibrant ocean of infinite, creative energy. When we gently weave all of these rigorously tested, profoundly poetic scientific truths together, the agonizing, universal human fear of death completely evaporates like a light morning mist caught in the warm rays of the ancient sun. The transition we fear so deeply is merely a beautiful, necessary shift in perspective. It is the quiet, peaceful moment when the localized observer gracefully dissolves back into the infinite, universal whole. You are fundamentally, completely, and permanently safe in this magnificent universe. You are an eternal expression of the cosmos, a beautiful way for the ancient stars to temporarily know themselves. You were entirely woven from the quiet mystery. You are experiencing the profound wonder, and your ultimate destiny is to seamlessly return to the vast, comforting silence from which you sprang. Thank you for walking with me through these deep explorations of the cosmos. Our journey into the quantum transition concludes here, but the infinite universe continues its eternal dance, inviting us to embrace the unknown. Until our next quiet journey, look up at the stars, feel the eternal energy resting in your bones, and rest deeply in the magnificent peace of your own infinite nature.